Matt Lane joining us, kind enough to join us, and has been a friend of the program. We appreciate it. Writer and analyst for KC Sports Network. Answer me a question here now, real quick, Matt. Okay. And I asked our guys a question. Even as a Kansas City Chiefs guy, right, and you cover the team in the whole 9 yards, does Travis Kelce just rub some people the wrong way, or is he one of those guys where he plays on your team, you love the dude?
Oh, it's definitely the latter. I mean, I think he's, outside of Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be like the most commonly placed favorite Chiefs player for most fans right now.
Yeah, I figured that was the answer. I mean, what a player. It's unbelievable what a player. Heck, the Bengals wish they had him. They don't. I asked this question, Matt, about the Bengals on a regular basis. And I'm going to ask you the same question as it pertains to the Chiefs. As we sit here today, less than 2 weeks away from the draft, and less than a couple of months removed from winning another Super Bowl there in Kansas City, are the Chiefs better today than they were at the end of last year, at least on paper?
That's a tricky one. I think defensively, yes. I think defensively, some of the moves they've made with Drew Tranquill, Charles Omenihu, I think those will pay kind of big dividends going along with like the young guys developing going into the next year. So defensively, yes. Offensively, I don't know. They're putting a lot of pressure on young wide receivers as of right now to pick up slack, to develop quickly, and replace Juju Smith-Schuster, who didn't have this, all-pro level year, but he was clearly their second best receiving weapon, the guy that they relied on the most after Travis Kelce. And I think you saw that in big moments, and they don't really have a replacement for him right now that's very proven. So offensively, it's a little more up in the air. Defensively, I would say they are.
When you say defensively, and I'm not going to say it surprises me because I'm not familiar with some of these young players that they're ready to obviously hand over the reins to, so to speak. What I do know is when the Bengals and Chiefs played in the AFC Championship game last year, Jones, who had done nothing against the Bengals in like 5 prior games, was the best player on the field. I think he turned out to be the best player on the field, period, of any player on any team in the NFL postseason last year. But Dunlap and Clark did some good things for this team. Do they feel like some of these younger guys are going to be able to replace him, if not be better than them?
Yeah, that's definitely the way they're angling towards. Carlos Dunlap and George Karlaftis kind of split reps. I think Dunlap probably did play a little better than him last year, but that's kind of expected for a rookie. I think it's really the addition of Charles Omenihu that carries a lot of the weight of, especially the defensive front being better. Just his versatility, he brings a little bit more juice to the pass rush. The Chiefs don't have a lot of explosive edge rushers off the side. Frank Clark at this point in his career, Carlos Dunlap, it's a lot of power. It's a lot of just kind of crushing the pocket, waiting for Chris Jones to do his thing. I think Omenihu brings an element that they didn't have last year. So, from that aspect, I just think that his addition is going to make them a little better. You expect Karlaftis to be at least a little better than he was last year, and he was already getting a good chunk of reps. So that's why I have a little bit of faith in that defensive line to be able to replace a Clark and a Dunlap. And to be fair, both are still free agents. I would almost be a little surprised if one of them isn't back in Kansas City before training camp really gets rolling.
Okay. The secondary was very young last year. The Chiefs proved that you can play a young secondary and you can win a Super Bowl. The Bengals are staring down the barrel to a lesser extent than the Chiefs were last year, playing a lot of young guys. But let's talk about the one Chief that did leave, the big fish in the sea, if you will, and that being Orlando Brown Jr. Are you surprised, before we talk about the guy you brought in to replace him, are you surprised that Brown is no longer a Chief?
Kind of. It did seem like they tried last year to sign him long term. So that was their goal. Their goal was to keep him and sign him long term. I do think what we saw last year from Orlando Brown Jr. though is he never really took that final step. He got better, but he never really elevated his game to that next level that was going to force the Chiefs to pay him like a top 5 left tackle. And I think that's what he was hoping for. So when we got to the end of the season and you just saw his kind of growth just kind of flatlined a little bit with the Chiefs, I think at that point it was, if he doesn't come down on his price, it's probably not going to happen. And it just never sounded like he was willing to come down to what the Chiefs thought he was going to be worth with them. Now, obviously, once he hit free agency and it becomes open to everybody else, you probably feel a little bit less or more willing to take a little bit less money than you would have from the team that was employing you previously.
Taylor gets brought in to basically replace him. That's a little bit younger version. Do they feel like – in other words, what did they like more about Taylor? Was it the price? Was it the youth? Was it the skill level that they liked better about him than they did Brown?
The youth, well, they're both young, so I can't even say youth. It's going to be more of the scheme fit, right? It's going to be more of just Orlando Brown Jr. is a very good left tackle, but playing in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes, who doesn't have the greatest pocket discipline. So he'll drop far, he'll drift, he's moving up, back, left, right, and that's asking Orlando Brown Jr. to redirect his momentum multiple times in a snap. It's asking him to stay connected to guys that are more athletic than him, and that just wasn't where Orlando Brown Jr. was his best at. Like, that wasn't the best situation for him, whereas Taylor, I think, a little bit lighter on his feet, has a little bit better lateral agility. So if you're thinking, okay, you're going to have him block to 7 yards deep, but he might have to redirect inside or run his block around a little bit deeper in the pocket because of Mahomes, they probably feel a little bit more comfortable with Taylor doing that than they did Orlando Brown Jr., because that's just like the area where he starts to struggle a little bit.
When you look at the offensive line as a group, there is a hole now over there at right tackle. Where is the team there? Is that something they're looking in the draft? Do they feel like they have a young player who's ready to take over that spot?
It's hard to tell. They drafted Lucas Niang in the 3rd round a couple years ago. He hasn't really been able to get on the field. He sat out the COVID year. He came in and started a little bit for the team before suffering an injury. It took him a long time to get back. So they don't know what they have in Lucas Niang, but they were excited for him when they drafted him and brought him in. So maybe they're holding on a little bit of hope still there that he can come in and compete. But outside that, I would imagine it's definitely coming from the draft. I don't know how comfortable they are with Lucas Niang being given the starting spot, but I think they're okay with him competing. So I wouldn't be shocked to see them wait until day 2, maybe even early day 3 to bring in another tackle to compete with him. I don't think they're in a rush to necessarily replace him, although I don't know if they're just going to be happy handing him the keys to that job again.
Walk me through the running back situation a little bit, because 2 years ago, I think his all-purpose yards were something like over 11 or 1,200, talking about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Then last year, Pacheco comes in. Nobody had ever heard of Pacheco, 7th-round pick. Unbelievable athlete. I'll be the first to admit I didn't know who Pacheco was, but when you watch that dude play and watch him run, it just blows my mind that these so-called NFL experts and scouts did not see something from this dude in college, which wouldn't lead you to believe that he certainly was better than a 7th-round pick, but that's where he ends up. But look, this time last year, Edwards-Helaire was a guy everybody was talking about in Kansas City, good-looking player. He's still technically on the roster. Does he have a chance? Will he get a chance to get his job back?
I mean, if he's still on the roster, the Chiefs will keep things mostly as an open competition, but I think it's going to be hard to supplant Pacheco as the de facto starter right now. The issue the Chiefs are kind of running into with the running back room is Pacheco, very good player. Everybody likes him and what he's going to, but he's not a complete runner. It's a one-speed runner. He's going to hit the hole. He's going to hit it hard. He's coming downhill. They don't have someone that's going to operate with a little more patience, someone that's going to be looking to just change their pace a little bit more. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire could be that guy, but they're going into their final year with him. They didn't pick up, or they're not going to pick up his 5th-year option. He has struggled to stay healthy. He's struggled to really carve out a role since his rookie year on this team. So they might look to add, whether it's just bringing Jerick McKinnon back in free agency or in the draft. I do think they are going to look for another running back to pair with Pacheco. And just right now, I don't think they have confidence that that's going to be Clyde. So I don't know where it's going to come from, but I would be a little surprised if Clyde isn't the running back 3 once the season starts rather than the running back 2.
Okay. All right. Well, Matt, we thank you so much for your time here today and talking about the Chiefs. This has turned into a nice little rivalry between your city and our city here, and hopefully it continues for a long, long time to come.
It's been fun. Thank you guys for having me on. And yeah, I'm sure we're going to see each other get in the AFC Championship game, just like it seems like we're destined to do for a couple years now.
Well, we're going to see it before that, because the Bengals got to come back into Arrowhead Stadium again during the regular season, which could be the very first game of the NFL season. We'll wait until May to find out that. But if I'm the NFL, I don't know if it gets any better than that game as a season opener.
Yeah, I mean that would definitely get the most viewers. That's still an Amazon game on Thursday. I don't know entirely what the schedule does, so I'd be interested to see how they do it. But that's gonna be that Thursday night opener, if I'm not mistaken. If that'd be the case, and I don't know if the NFL wants to let the big networks will let that one go to Amazon if it's still Amazon.
Well, I think that NBC gets the first game of the year. Every
Okay.
year. I think. I could be wrong. And of course that's always changing. So who knows? Anyway, it's going to be fun when they do play. And have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, guys. You guys do the same.
All right. Great to have him with us. Chiefs football, Casey, gets you all fired up.